This is peace, power, and purpose 360.
Hey, it's Dave Alexander again for another powerful hour of peace, power, and purpose 360 degrees. Look, this is about total life alignment. This is about getting yourself together so that goal, that dream that you've been torturing yourself because you haven't done it. It's about pursuing it. And yes, we want you to stay with us because we're on a journey. So we want you to share this with your friends. We want you to follow us on Instagram. We want you to like us and share us with your friends. And also we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Peace, Power, and Purpose 360 degrees. You know, we talked about the last time about how the mind works in terms of our being able to self-regulate. You know, when we self-regulate, of course, you start to formulate perceptions and opinions called truths about yourself. And certainly, if there's a negative truth you believe about yourself, no matter how many positive things you try, you're going to overcorrect. You're going to go back to what you know the truth or you believe the truth to be about yourself. And so a lot of times we have vowed, I'm not going to do this anymore. But how many vows did you make that you didn't really mean it because your mindset hadn't changed? You know, parents, a lot of times parents felt like, I heard somebody say the other day, having a whole lot of money is evil. No, having a whole lot of money is not evil. But I heard a book of wisdom say, but the love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, when you love money more than you love people, when you love money more than you love yourself, that you give yourself up just to get that money, then now the money is being made evil. But the money is not evil. Money is current. Current is what take us. Current is what we flow in. Current is what allows our lives to be better, to be profitable, to be productive. So, you know, a teacher that, for instance, would rather condemn success and praise self-sacrifice. I mean, these are vows that a lot of time people make that they don't really mean it. When somebody's successful, that means they got to be doing something corrupt. But here's the deal. When you get your mind in the right place, and sometimes this self-sabotaging can come from a traumatic experience. Maybe your parents lost a lot of money. Maybe they invested in something and they lost everything. That's one of the things about entrepreneurship. You got to be willing to take the risk of losing everything to be successful. That's why they call them an entrepreneur. But the thing about it is maybe you tried and you vowed that you never try again. Well, your words are powerful, especially the words you speak to yourself and the words that you speak about yourself. You say, I can never trust again. Maybe you've been betrayed by someone who stole from you, who betrayed your trust. So now you said, I can't trust again. Maybe a man or a woman abused you in your life. And now you got this thing about women in power, men in power, that you could never trust again. These are things that are sabotage or cause you, with your own words, to sabotage every opportunity you have in the future. And when you promise, when you vow that this time I'm going to do better, this time I'm going to get around the people that's going to help me, and then you try, and all of a sudden you meet that resistance. That resistance is not to overtake or destroy you. That resistance is to show you, hey, man, you're moving in the right direction, and you don't have to go by what's logic. You don't have to dress up your fears with positive thinking. Know for yourself that where you're trying to go is the next level up. And when you start thinking that I can do this, thinking that I will do this, there's a synergy, there's an energy that comes behind it. And it begins to push you. And now being consistent in that becomes your protection, because what has worked before, it can work again. We often hear people say, if you don't at first succeed, try and try again. But you know what? A sabotaging spirit is a clever spirit. it likes to disguise itself into logical words so that you can say, well, you know what? It was never meant for you in the first place. Remember, I started out by saying you got to learn how to unbelieve a lot of lies that were told to you down through the years. What you too poor to have this. You don't have the money. You don't have the skill. You have been endowed with something uniquely different from any other person, and that something is going to drive you to a goal, to a future that has already been laid out for you. You just got to want it bad enough to pursue it. So whatever you've been dreaming about for yourself, for your family, for your community, about your future, it's there. You just got to go for it. And here's the thing about it. What you keep promising yourself? What do you keep promising yourself? Promise you're not going to do that again? No, don't keep promising yourself. Just do it. The more confidence you have, you'll be able to keep your promise to yourself. If you can't keep your promise to yourself, then you can't keep a promise to anybody else. And that's why your belief system is powerful. And tonight we want to talk about free flowing to the next level. You know what? I ran into a young man the other day, and he was telling me about this 5-year-old kid. I was so impressed until they scared me. I said, man, y'all got to protect him. This kid, 5 years old, he's playing Little League baseball. At 5, he is able to process, and he can look at the whole baseball field in a panoramic view and make decisions. When you hit the ball to him, he can figure out very quickly whether he needs to go ahead and throw the ball to first base or second base, whether you need to tag third base and then go for a double play. He already knows how to figure that out. This kid is playing at the next level up. So now what we got to do as parents and mentors is create an environment that helps him to self-regulate, help him become disciplined at practice, help him to become disciplined and not letting things that can distract him. This kid at 5 has a God-given talent. I just talked to a friend of mine the other day that I remember him when his son is playing professional football, Jeremy Reeves, and we were talking about how when he was a kid, how his dad used to encourage him. Well, his dad had challenges raising him as a single father. There was a challenge to that. But the things he deposited in his son, he created that buffer zone. And he had to protect him for things that would teach him how to self-sabotage his own future. This kid has a phenomenal story, and I'm hoping one day to get him on this podcast so he can tell you himself. I don't want to take that thunder. I want him to tell you himself. But he comes from a background of highs and lows, ups and downs. But he would have never had the opportunity if it had not been instilled in him early on. So automatically, when I talked to this young man yesterday, I'm like, hey, man, you got to help this kid. You got to help this kid maintain a focus, and you got to help him get through some stuff that could easily traumatize him. You got to help him process things he's not going to understand. He's going to need a mentor. He's going to need a support system that's going to be different from what we may have had growing up, you know? So, but because what this kid now has as a talent could be his actual hustle. It could be his swag. It could be what gets him out of the potentially economic trap that he could easily land in and be trapped in. But it's about wisdom. It's about passing on that information. So we need to create an opportunity for this kid to promise himself he'll never quit, he'll never give up, and help him keep that promise to himself. Because the more he keeps the promises to himself, his confidence level is going to take him to the next level. Imagine this kid at elementary school playing at a middle school level, or at elementary school, he's already picking up skills, knowledges, and abilities that a high school baseball player is picking up. Not to mention he's embraced the importance of academics, and he's putting the academics behind what he's doing. He's free-flowing to the next level up. So what I'm saying is, man, you know what you've been taught to believe about yourself. And some of it might have been true. But I bet you everything you believe to be the truth about yourself is not true. It's what you've been led to believe by others, by situations, by circumstance. You know, but the minute you change the way you think, you can change the way you live your life. And once you learn how to process things and understand that, man, we live affected by our feelings. You know, when someone betrays your trust and it's someone you really trusted, especially in an intimate relationship, man, it hurts you. It breaks your heart. It hurts you to the core. So there's emotions attached to it with this experience. So now that's why sometimes when you're talking to people and you get on a certain subject, you see the emotions kick in. You see the anger. You see the frustration. You see sometimes they re-traumatized by, they have a flashback, and it's because the emotions that are tied to the truth that you know to be about yourself. And so when you told yourself you can't do any better, you're always going to be a victim. You're a victim of circumstance. Man, it's okay to recognize what you went through, but don't live with a victim mentality, especially when you got something inside of you that can really change your life, change your future, change your family future. So it's about free flowing, understanding. You're learning new things about yourself. I'm gonna tell you something. Man, I didn't know how much I didn't know about myself till I began to free flow to the next level. It's amazing. The more you know about yourself, the more you're able to master yourself, the more you're able to take what should have been traumatic events and now they're energizing events. They turn what should have been your trauma into energy. Now you're moving at the speed of light because you trust the process. You realize what was meant to destroy me now is the fuel that I operate off of. You can do it. You can do it, but you got to start somewhere. And why not start now? Why not start remembering that the more you release a positive belief system, you're energizing yourself. You're reclaiming energy that you thought you was lost. The chains are going to be broken. The mindsets that had you bound, now all of a sudden the power to move forward is there. And then you're going to realize it's not about always having money, but it's about being able to flow with the current, flow with the thing in you that really is your source of resource, your money. It's your current. It's like a river. A river doesn't have dollars, but a river, when it current flows down to streams, those streams plant valleys and fruits and produce grows. When you put an irrigation system in that free flows to every part of the fields, everything is going to grow and prosper. So when your mind, when your energy is free flowing at the opportunities you have, aligning your opportunities with the skill levels that you're realizing you got. Man, some of y'all got talent to write. Some of you can sing. Some of you can rap. What are you rapping about? Are you rapping about something that's going to help somebody live better? Are you rapping about something that keeps them broke, busted, and disgusted? Are you rapping about something that says, man, I might as well just go and give up, throw the towel in? Well, you become a part of what's coming out of your own mouth. You begin to live that prophecy that you prophesying over yourself, that prophecy you prophesying over other people. Change the way you think, and you can change the way you live your life, and you'll find yourself free-flowing. You'll find yourself broken, but now you're healing. You'll find yourself drawing people to you because, one of the things I remember when I was in law enforcement, we was doing the community policing projects. The more we went into the neighborhoods where they were downtrodden, it was hopeless, it was blight. There were people in there sitting around every day, man, doom and gloom. But the minute we started to go in there and just little things started happening, start changing minds, start changing mindsets. People start coming out to meetings. People start dreaming again. And those dreams start becoming opportunities. But what was happening is their convictions to pursue what they really wanted was magnetizing. It started to draw in resources. There are people coming in, I never forget, during a time when homicides had 2012 homicides had hit an all-time high in Escambia County, in the city. And man, we started going to the neighborhoods. I never forget Carolyn Appleyard. She started sponsoring little free libraries. We started going to neighborhoods where there was a homicide. I don't care what happened. Was it domestic violence, gang violence? It didn't matter. We went in there and we started talking to the people, the children, the families in the neighborhood, men and women, started setting them little free libraries up. And man, the kids started going in there, started reading, started hoping. They're kids that was reading about being a pilot. And then there were people inspired by it. And they started going by there and they started pouring books in those neighborhoods. Some of those neighborhoods, matter of fact, the one in Western Mark Park in Montclair is across the street at the Montclair Elementary School. That little free library started in the park. And there are kids that made it out of that neighborhood. There are kids that are living productive lives. But the thing about it, you had to start somewhere. And when you start to free flow at the next level up, you start to see opportunities that you wouldn't have been able to see if you stayed at the level you were at. And what I'm saying is, look at this kid we use as a 5-year-old example. Imagine when he starts to play at the next level up, and before he get to that level, he's already at 2 levels up. He's going to see opportunities. Man, somebody's going to want to sign him on a scholarship, and he's just a freshman in high school. And the way things are going now, they're not waiting for him to finish high school. They say, hey, son, here, we want to sign you a contract. Opportunities come more ways than one. But at some point, we got to protect the talent that already exists in our community, and we got to protect the future talent that's already in the workings. Man, I look at kids every Sunday in church. I look at kids in the neighborhood, kids in my family. I'm realizing they got it already. I mean, give a kid a little, give them your cell phone. I tell you what, give them a fake cell phone. And watch how they look at you. Man, I don't want that. I want the one you got in your hand. Here, you take this one. Give me that one. And if you got the design for the lock screen, they may not know what dots to connect, but they know. But if you let them watch you pick the numbers, they're going to know what numbers to pick. Man, it's amazing the brilliance that exists not only in our present, but in our future generation. We got to tap into it. Adults, those who have gone down these roads and have learned from it, man, we got to help them so that they can free flow to the next level. It's about letting, I'll never forget when I was starting in middle school, the cheerleaders used to come in and do the pep rally, right? So there's a cheer that went from middle school to high school and even in college, and I'll never forget it. Just elevate your mind, get yourself together. Elevate your mind, get yourself together. It's about free flowing. You got to look up. When you look up, you gravitate to where you're looking. But if you look down, guess what? You're gravitating to where you're looking. You're going down, man. And it ain't looking pretty. You're going down, young lady, and you got all this talent in your hands. I look at the creativity now amongst a lot of young ladies, that the different braid styles, the different hairstyles, the different skin care. Man, look, I see some young ladies with some beautiful skin. And you know what? They've gotten into skincare. Do you know that that's a talent? That's a well sought after talent. But again, are you going to keep dreaming it? Or are you going to stop dreaming and start pursuing it? If you're going to pursue it, you got to free flow. You got to self-regulate. You got to work on getting some things in your head under control so that you're not operating out of your feelings, but you're operating out of conviction that you are better, you got what it takes, and you're going to make it work. Yeah, you may have failed in the last attempts. You may have failed time and time again, but you got to say to yourself with a conviction, this time,